Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we'll discuss the NQ operation, right? How to write or implement this NQ operation on a queue using arrays. So this is our queue object. We have this data array, and we have this F, and we have this R. And I'm assuming that we have called initialize function on this. F is set to -1, R is set to -1 by calling the initialize function on this queue object. Now, as I said in our main, this is our main function, right? From our main function, I created this queue object, right? Queue object. Then I called initialize function on this queue object, right? Then before I'll ask the user here, enter the numbers to NQ, enter the numbers to NQ, right? So user will enter, let's say, I'll store those numbers inside a variable called as X, right? So I'll write here, statement I'll write printf, enter a number to NQ. That statement, right? User will enter some number. I'll store that number in a variable called as X, let's say %d and X, right? So I'll do scanf. I'll use integer variable X, right? So I stored that number locally in X. So X is equal to 10, let's say. User enter 10. I stored 10, right? And then I want to NQ this 10 or insert this 10 in this queue, right? So I'll call NQ NQUE to this NQ. Just hold a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to call this NQ function. To this NQ function, I'll be passing my queue, right? And the number to be inserted. These two things I'll give to this NQ. To this NQ, I'll tell, hey NQ, insert this X inside this queue, right? Inside this queue. I'm passing the address because this X will be inserted in this queue only, not the copy, right? So this NQ will require the queue and the number to be inserted. But I'll call this NQ only when the queue is, this queue is not full. So I'll make sure that the queue is not full before calling this NQ. So here, if not is full, right? If not is full and queue, right? I'll call NQ. That means if is full return me is full will return me 1 if the queue is full, right? A negation of 1 is, or let me clear this confusion. It will create a confusion. So what will I do? I'll simply, okay. So here, what I want to make sure, I want to call NQ only when the queue is not full. If is full and queue, right? I'm calling is full on this queue, right? And this is full will return 1 if the queue is full, right? So if is full returns 1, I'll say printf queue full, right? Queue full I'll print. Else means if this is full returns 0. When this is full will return 0, this is full will return 0 when the queue is not full. So that time I'll say if the queue is not full, I'll call NQ. NQ, all right? NQ is the name of the function. So to this NQ, I'll pass the address of my queue and the variable X, which is holding the value which I want to insert in queue. So this is going to be my call to NQ function. To this NQ function, I'm saying, hey NQ, insert this X in this queue, right? So I'm passing the queue by address. Queue is passed by address and this X is passed by value here. So this NQ is called only when the queue is not full, right? I call this full on queue. If this full return 1, I'll say the queue is full. I'll not perform NQ. If this full returns 0, that means, right? That means this condition is false. 0 means this condition is false. I'll go to else where I'll call NQ function. So now let us see NQ. Let us see NQ. If you remember, in the previous video, we saw NQ, before performing NQ, we are calling is full, right? Is full will return yes or no, right? In this case, if it returns yes, we'll say the queue is full and we'll exit. If it returns no, then we saw there are two situations, right? The queue is empty and it is partially full, right? So these two situations I need to handle in NQ, right? Queue is empty or it is partially full. These two situations I need to handle, because this already I handled. This is already handled here, right? This queue full is already handled here, so I need not worry about that, right? So I need not worry about this is full because I already handle it here. I need to handle these two situations in NQ, right? So here is our NQ, void NQ. Void because the return type of NQ is void because it is not going to return anything to anyone. It is just going to insert the number X in the queue, right? As we are passing the the address of the queue, we need a pointer here, struct. Again, we need not write this struct if you are using type def. Struct q star p is the pointer to this queue, right? And as we are passing one integer variable from here, we need an integer variable here, int y, right? Int y. So now, now I need to check these two situations. So first situation I'll check, right? Is queue empty? How will I check that? I'll simply check the value of r. If it is -1, I'll say that the queue is, I'll say that I'm in this situation where I need to initialize both f and r to 0. And here, if the queue is partially full, I need to simply say r is equal to r plus 1 or r plus plus, right? Or r plus plus, both are same thing, right? So I'll first check this situation. If p arrow r, I am accessing this r, so name of the pointer, arrow operator, name of the variable. So this is the pointer to structure concept. If this equal to -1, that means the queue is empty. So what will I do? I'll simply set uh, uh, p arrow r equal to p arrow f equal to -1. Both f and r will be set, both f and r will be set to 0. That's what we want to do, no? When the queue is empty, we want to set both f and r to 0. When the queue is empty, we'll set both f and r to 0. And then go to data array, p arrow data. We want to access the data array now, right? So data array is inside the structure pointed by this p. So p arrow data. And in which location in the data array? The r location. Here r is 0, but I don't want to use 0 directly. I want to get the value of r. I want to retrieve this value of r, right? I want to retrieve this value of r. That means I want to retrieve this 0. How will I retrieve this 0? I could have directly written 0 here. Right? Because I know r is 0. That's why I can directly go on 0th location. But I don't want to write this 0 directly. I want to get this 0 by accessing the value of r. How will I access the value of r? Here I want to access the r, right? Here I want to access r. Now this is slightly a tricky part. People get confused here. If you want to access the value of r, this r is inside this structure pointed by a pointer p. So I need to say p arrow r, not only r. So this, I want to get the value of r. So I cannot directly say only r because this r is inside the structure pointed by this pointer p. So I have to say p arrow r. So this will give me a 0, right? And this is equal to y, because y is holding this 10. 10 is passed here, right? So this x is passed to this y, and this address of q is passed to this p, right? So equal to y. That's it. So p, name of the pointer, arrow operator. I want to access the data array. That's why data. Inside data array, which location? That is r location, right? So if this is when the queue is empty, the first situation will be handled like this: when the queue is empty. Else means the queue is partially full. So what will I do in this case? I'll simply increment r by 1. P arrow R equal to P arrow R plus 1, right? I simply increment R in the normal, the other situation like this, let's say 10, 20 and 30. In this case, R is 2, right? So I simply increment P arrow R equal to P arrow R plus 1 and then go to data array. In order to access data array, you have to go through P because this data array is inside this structure. So P arrow data of, in which location? The R location. I want to get the value of R. So P arrow R equal to Y, right? So that's it. This bracket, this is else bracket and this is the bracket of this function, right? So this is NQ function where we are taking care of these two situations. The first situation is queue is empty. If the queue is empty, I'll set both P arrow R and P arrow F to 0. That is R and F are set to 0. And then we are going to the data array, right? Data array is inside the structure pointed by P. That's why P arrow data. In that data array, the location is R location. So R value I want to retrieve. So R is inside the structure pointed by P. That's why P arrow R will give me value of R, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Right? So P arrow R will give me value of R. So on this location, I'll insert this Y. Similarly here, so this is queue empty, and if this is partially full, simply increment R by 1, right? Simply increment R by 1, and then go to data array on R location, insert them. So I hope you understood this NQ operation, right? So in the next video, we'll discuss about the DQ operation and why this is called as linear queue. By the way, this is called as linear queue. Why this is called as linear queue, we'll discuss DQ operation, right? The implementation of DQ operation in the coming video. So stay tuned. See you there. Thank you.